I want to welcome everybody. My name is Michael Gill. I'm one of the partners here at Helios Consulting, and I would like to welcome you to our Helios webinar series. This, as well as other webinars that we do, can be found on our Helios Consulting YouTube channel. So look us up, check us out. Today we are talking about digital transformation, stepping back to dig deeper. This is going to be presented to you by Theunis van der Linde. I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Theunis van der Linde. He is one of our partners here at Helios Consulting with 20 years of blended industry experience. His focus is primarily on strategy and operations, but he is certainly not limited to that. Let me briefly tell you about Helios. We are a boutique consulting firm based in Calgary, Canada, which brings many unique experiences and perspectives. This in turn provides sensibility and practicability to each of our practices. We understand change, and we understand that change can be difficult. This is why each of our practices embrace a change leadership and people-focused approach. To learn more, you can actually visit our website. We talk about all we do, and you can see in this the graphic that's displayed right now that we actually have some pretty detailed offerings. So please check us out at heliosconsulting.ca. Anyways, that's enough from me. Take it away, Theunis.
Thank you, Mike. And you did perfectly fine on the pronunciation there. I know for North Americans, you know, it's a South African name and last name is a little bit of a tongue twister.
Well, I appreciate that.
I also want to welcome everyone and you know, sort of so I'm happy to see there are some names that I'm recognizing in the audience. So what we will talk about today, I'll set the context a little bit and then want to really step briefly through three major areas, looking at the bigger picture when it comes to digital transformation. How does technology fit into the bigger picture, and very, very importantly, looking at culture and organizational aspects as it relates to digital transformation. So today, I think I want to present an opportunity to pause and think. You know, just recently, one of our colleagues, Kate, the Nunzio, she posted a little blog on or a comment on LinkedIn talking about the need to pause, think, reflect, and act. And that's what I want to achieve, or what I hope we achieve today. You know, really looking at the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, and taking the opportunity to think and consider and reflect. You know, collective experiences as opposed to, you know, this is not a one-way session to preach and force and share one point of view and not consider other points of views as well. So, you know, the bigger picture, I used this title, but I feel it's such an overused term. And what does it really mean? But it is important, I think, to start off with saying, you know, looking at digital transformation in context. And there's no better way for me to look at that and consider the main stages or industrial revolution over time, really. I'll dive into the detail in just a brief moment, but I want to highlight two key observations that will be flushed out as we speak about this. Number one being, we have seen 250 years of transformation in one way, shape, form, or another. Right now, we find ourselves amidst the digital and technological driven transformation. The themes have just changed over time, but nonetheless, we have experienced this before multiple times. We have the experience and we have hindsight and history to learn from, which helps us greatly. And second observation is that we are getting better and faster at getting better and faster. The time periods between each of those key phases in the beginning used to be a century, and the last real big change came in approximately 30 years from the previous one. So it means that we need to be ready faster, and we need to smooth and polish our ability to transform or to drive transformation projects quicker, since change is heading to us down the pipeline quicker. It's almost this sense of, as you master and adopt one theme or phase into your business, the next one comes. It enables us actually to find the next innovating aspect quicker, which makes it, the timeline crunch faster. But I mean, I think of the key stages really as themes that have emerged, starting with really establishing ourselves in the late 1700s with, building a robust platform where everything started in the sense of powered machinery, using steam and water power really to mechanize factories and businesses, which led to us moving to next stages like, the concept of mass production that was made available through mass generation and distribution of electricity. We suddenly became a connected world or environment in some sense, which allowed us to scale and have things move really, really fast, and us needing to keep up with it. Which then, with the invention of computers and electronics and being able to integrate that computing power into businesses and society, really, launched us into the next phase of efficiency. Up to that point, really, you can make the argument that efficiency and productivity was really man-driven, human factor dependent, until the introduction of really computing power and electronics to augment or help or make us more efficient at that time. And then where we find ourselves today, which is, the cyber physical world, the lines between the cyber and physical, or digital and physical environment, that constantly is being blurred, that we have to navigate through, and the amount of data that's being generated, the speed at which we see things being developed, being introduced, being used to generate intelligence and knowledge, and the use of AI. I mean, it is estimated that we produce 2.5 exabytes of data a day, but that's being generated by humans. And to put it into perspective, 1 exabyte is 1 billion gigabytes. So that's 18 zeros, 2.5 with 18 zeros behind it. The amount of data we generate daily, and it's estimated that will grow to north of 450 exabytes of data a day. With the point being that, what comes next? What do we do with all of that data and the quantum leap that we'll see in the amount of data that we generate? And how can we use that to enhance? My mind goes to enhancement after we've enriched our lives with, this technological innovations. How do we enhance it even further, and use the data to create knowledge and intelligence? Putting digital transformation in focus, to me, just me being able to Google the term digital transformation is already quite significant proof of the technological age that we live in. When Googling digital transformation, you get just under 500 million, 484 million results, in under 1 second, right? 500 million results almost. Couple that with Ngram viewer results. For those who are not familiar, Ngram viewer simply plots the amount of publications that was issued with containing that the terminology or the terms that you are searching for. So roughly 30 times more, we've seen a 30 times increase in the last 10 years when we talk about digital transformation and what's been published. The point that I'm making is that there is no shortage of publications, documents, articles, points of views out there about digital transformation. And in a sense, this places a lot of responsibility and the burden on us to manage our way through this unfiltered and unrestricted access of information that we have, to make sure that we use it responsibly. Now, taking it, from that big funnel view to how does this apply to business, what I found interesting is I took some of the most common definitions that you can find in how digital transformation is defined, and highlighted some of the key concepts, but you can basically strip most of the definitions down to it's the use of technology to make your business better. They vary in some way or shape in small details, but excuse me. I wanted to see that, to check whether if you take out the focus or replace the words that focus around technology and replace them with another theme or concept, specifically like we've seen in the Industrial Revolution sort of timeline, would it still make sense? So, if I replaced advanced technologies and digital technologies like it was in the context of that definition with, advanced energy sources and powered machines like we saw in mechanization, I can still read through that definition and it still makes sense to me. The theme had just changed, that instead of technologies, I'm now relying on powered machines to help me integrate, and change the way I operate. And I just another example doing the same, where we use technology to radically improve our performance. And if I substitute it and try to say that, hey, can I use electricity to radically improve performance? That definition still makes sense. Now, the point that I'm making is that it's important and very valuable to figure out what transformation means for your business. And then to fill in the blanks with whatever the most impactful or innovative or cutting edge, technologies are or theme is at that time. What that does, it makes sure that you position yourself correctly, saying that you are transforming or changing for the better, as opposed to just jumping on technology for the sake of jumping on technology. And you would build a fundamental base to transform from, even if the theme changes in future times.
This is an important slide, I think, for organizations. In my career, I've seen organizations. I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. There's organizations tend to jump very quickly into something that they know little about, just because it's a trend, right? So I think, what I get from this slide in particular is thinking in the here and now, making sure you understand your organization knows where they're at, understanding current maturity, as well as understanding, current state of capability, having the ability to even, make a technological change, right?
Yeah, spot on. Very, very, sort of relevant comment there. And it leads into the next section there, Mike. So thanks for that. Talking about how does technology fit. Now, I mean, obviously, digital transformation, technology plays a key role when it comes to digital transformation, but we'll discuss in just a moment about where that fit actually is and how it's more of a catalyst or an enabler rather than the actual leading force or dominant force that should drive companies towards, or on their journey. And it's all about making the link and having the perspective and being able to ask the questions and understand the fundamental business problems that you are trying to solve. Asking the questions such as the why and the why now, and the what and the how. And and today the pace and the speed at which we move today does not necessarily give us the opportunity or the luxury to start in the beginning and end at the end. White paper space planning with all the time in the world. We often find ourselves falling into this pipeline or into this journey at various stages in this sort of chain. And it's also often driven by the how, which is really where technology fits. We are very tempted to jump onto the new shiny things, that pop up or across our dashboard every now and then. And, tempted, or the risk that we then run by doing that is we then try or attempt to have a problem fit our solution, when that might cause a lot of challenges. When if you ask the fundamental questions or articulate them clearly and understand the main drivers behind some of the business problems you're experiencing, matching the solutions to the why and the why now becomes an easier task, as opposed to the plethora of options that's available. You can see it's a little bit of a funnel that expands in your choices that gets more as you move down the pipeline. So anyway, trying to understand the fundamental business questions, like why do we need to transform? Why do we have this concern? Is it the declining market share that we are experiencing? Why are we continuing to see what we are seeing in our business? And why address this concern now? Why not wait until later? Why have we not done anything about this before? It might be that the changes in the regulatory landscape suddenly brings this need about as to why now, or the shareholder expectation has changed, or a drastic shift in the competitive landscape that's forcing your hand right at this point. But nonetheless, still a very important question to understand, the why now, and not just simply because, well, the technology is available and seems like a good thing, but understanding the fundamental reason about the why now. And, the how, the what we need to change. What will we change? What will change look like? What is working well and what is not working well? What is wrong or right, or the bad or the good things about the way we organize ourselves? What are we missing in terms of approaching risk or jumping on opportunities? Which then leads you to the how, which is the point where technology is most prominent and plays the biggest role. And if you've done a decent job at trying to understand the fundamental reasons behind the why now, and the what, it then becomes an easier task to link how would this meaning the specific technology that's available for you solve that problem the best? How will this ensure that we are better tomorrow at whatever it was that we were doing, or the business problem that we are trying to solve, than we were today? And the keeping in mind that the technology and digital is just an enabler and used as a lever, still a very, very pivotal part. Sorry, Mike.
If we go back to that slide,
yeah.
I wanted to just kind of make a general comment here. There's a lot of words on here that are great, but they're certainly used in a different context to what I'm used to. Back in the day, it was what technology is out there and can we implement it now, right? And the reason this slide is very impactful and it resonates with me is because organizations often don't do enough to kind of ask these questions to see how it's going to be impactful, right? And this is really about justification and recognizing the potential impacts at all levels of the organization. So very good outline there for sure.
Well, and you're spot on there, and that's why these questions that you see now like how does technology help us advance our efforts on environmental, social, and governance performance. Um, I think one of the pitfalls or the potholes we step into often is exactly as you mentioned there just now, Mike, is that because the technology is available and often the catalyst and the driver for a lot of change, because at the speed at which we are innovating, we fall into the trap of making that point solution or the technology, forcing it back into the business and trying to make some of our problems fit them. When if you have stepped through and asked those fundamental questions as a business, you would be in a really, really good position to gauge whether the points highlighted on the screen now, for instance, even are a concern to you. Do you even have an issue with inclusion and diversity, as an example, or to navigate regulatory uncertainty? If you've not established those things, and for your business, those questions might look very different if you've stepped through that process. And then it becomes an easier task to just match the solution to your challenge, as opposed to trying to force it back. There are many technology solutions out there and innovation that can solve a lot of these things, plus many others. That does not mean that your business needs that or have that same degree of problems or business problem that you're trying to solve. So simply just adopting or jumping on some of the shiny new things, if you do not really have that need, can be a little bit of a challenge. Now, I'll just briefly talk about something I call the transformation triangle. I think those who are familiar with project management know about the iron triangle, about scope, schedule, and budget, and the relationship in that if one changes, the other are impacted. Now, with transformation, the same relationship exists between people, process, and tools. And tools really being the technology, that's where it would sit, and it would be introduced in the most cases. But the key takeaway from the slide is that harmony must be maintained, and the awareness that introducing change into one influences the other aspects as well. And it's about consciously focusing on them. And on the flip side, you have the risk of not acting or not doing anything, and simply introducing change through digital or new technologies, and not consciously addressing process, people, which we'll spoke about in a minute, organizational and culture. It really creates risk in your transformation journey, probably more than what you had set out to do. Now, again, how technology fits in, but linking it to thinking broader than pure technology. Now, the above the line and below the line that's illustrated here really reflects the transactional and the transformational. In digital transformation projects or efforts, we see and hear a lot and are constantly faced with very transactional things, that the sensors, the system, the architecture, the cloud, lots of time and effort is being spent around that, and rightfully so, because it's very transactional. It drives a lot of the progress and the momentum forward. But the point being here that there is an equal and very important link that you must maintain to think about transformational aspects. So, the below the line things that we do not see that often and are sometimes hard to articulate or, not tangible. But it links back to the why and the why now of your business, and how the technology and the transactional fits to the transformational. And how do you make, how do you drive value through what you're doing, and how do you sustain that change? How do you empower your organization and your workforce, and how do you sustain it? And how do you maintain the balance between the two so that the one does not overpower the other one?
This is very valid. Yeah, I mean, when I think in terms of, my background in reliability, how important it is to make sure that we drive for value, right? We put in advanced systems or smart systems with some expectation on the other end. We want information, or we want something to be done that has purpose, that helps us perform better. And I think this is bang on, is that we make our decisions from our transactional perspective to ensure that we are getting some transformational purpose behind it. We're getting some value and something that's going to drive us, further, right?
Yeah, yes. I mean, it's easier to focus and live in the transactional aspect. Sometimes it's something I can see, measure, understand, explain, see a drawing of, ask someone to explain to me if I don't know. And it's a little bit more difficult to live in the transformational side. And that's why the words I've used previously was like consciously and on purpose. This is something you have to force yourself to do to make sure you make that link.
So Theunis, a question just kind of came to my mind. Does it make sense maybe to, start with some kind of transformation purpose, understand what it is, and kind of go backwards and figure out what type of transactions that's maybe tied to a technology that will give us this value?
Well, it is. So what you're saying is, what I tried to show in the previous slide, just flip the other way around, where you transformational that's shown here below the line really relates closely to the why and the why now. I mean, the reasons behind the journey you're about to embark on needs a fundamental reason to start off with. And the transactional pieces link more closely to the how and a little bit to the what. But if you've stepped through that sequence, you should be having a good map or a plot of the transactional and the transformational aspects that are important for this journey you're about to embark on, which really sets the goalposts, so that it's not just digital transformation is sort of the buzzword of the day and we better jump on board with no reason at all. Then you have that reason to do it and the means. So you have the strategy and the tactics.
Makes a lot of sense.
Okay, and so the last of the three sort of themes to address today is the culture and organizational aspects. Now, think of this in the mix with digital, in the sense of that transformation triangle where you have digital or technology mixed with culture and organization, and that really needs to be still maintained in balance. Now,
so Theunis, we did have a question come up actually,
okay,
just, based on the last couple slides there.
Sure.
It's how does transformational value may be added to fill the gap in the potential capability of people versus the level used by employers?
Just read that to me again, Mike. I'm just trying to.
It says how transformational value may be added. It might be meant to be worded, how can transformational value be added to fill the gap in the potential capability of people versus the level used by employers?
Yeah, so I think, one of the reasons why companies often embark on digital transformation is to close that gap, in fact, that we are talking about now, the capability of employees and maybe perhaps what's expected of employers. And maybe I'm just misunderstanding the question there, and a little bit of a gap or more information that's needed. But if you ask if you go back to the why and the why now and trying to make the link as to, the what and the how in your business, if that value that you have to find for you and your organization lies in a certain aspect, whether that be, process driven or people driven or productivity driven, that if you understand the main drivers behind that, matching the technology or the levers that you have to employ in your business from a digital point of view to make you close that gap, would be the main focus, right?
Yeah, there was a little bit in addition to the question here. It says normally in the employees survey, we find that people are being underutilized.
Oh yes, I think that that's very, very, very true. In fact, a little bit later, there's a slide that we speak to that a little bit, but that so I cannot be more happy that aligns very much to what we've just shown about maintaining the harmony, right? Underutilizing, under-involving people, not necessarily even underutilizing, not involving your employees in your workforce to the right degree to make sure that they are on board with transformation effort, and that in fact you will obtain the value that you had set out to obtain, and involve your employees along the way at all times.
Absolutely. I think, the utilization of people, you might be able to increase that if you stage it so that you are ensuring that your digital transformation provides value to each level within the organization.
Correct. And I don't want to get stuck on this. There's later on, and perhaps, I'll just tease it out now that even measuring involvement, right, and using other tools that we can speak to will make sure that you can really drive that and lean on your people more and utilize them more as you implement or embark on your transformation journey. Okay, so I'll continue. I wanted to pause a moment just here and explain real. If you look at sort of Merriam-Webster definition of what real means, because there's no use in us trying to embark on digital transformation journey or any transformation journey for that matter that will not be real, right? So real is defined as having objective independent existence, or behaving or presented in a way that feels true. Now, a definition is still very theoretical. So what I did is to break it down further. If you look at the purple boxes, which shows the actual definition, for me, it helps if I break it down into simple, crisp, and clear action driving words that if I or any organization or project embarks on a sort of digital transformation project, trying to work these words into either your deliverables or your tactics or your plan will help and go a long way to make sure that you actually achieve real digital transformation. Words like commitment, tangible, consistent, being persistent, transparent, keeping it simple. To me, those are the things I can, it's almost like that slide we showed, that transactional and transformational. Those are the things that's very transactional to me. I can execute on and do and feel and aim my actions and my program and my effort to meet those sort of thresholds. And by doing that, I've taken a big step towards making sure my transformation is real and it's here to stay. Anyway, so sort of heading into the home stretch here, and it's a sort of very, very adequate segue, talking about organizational culture and sort of, people. But the culture, the core of your organization. Now, we've worked with many clients on transformation projects or digital or technology projects, and these are just what I'll show now are a few things that's like tips to keep in mind, lessons we've learned and things we've picked up on to say, this will go a long way again to help you connect, make the link, to help you not focus only on the transactional and to help you, make sure that it's a real transformation that you can achieve. Things like, having a solid value proposition. We all know, well, it's getting better and more affordable. But making a big technology change or a digital project isn't something you can backtrack from very easily. So making that very, very clear and distinctive and understood link to why and why now and what is my actual business I'm trying to solve is very important. If I can urge you to spend a little bit of time on something, it would be on that before getting out of the blocks. Driving ownership and accountability. There's no doubt that technical skills is very important when it comes to technology and digital transformation, but not having, overall an organizational wide buy-in and ownership and accountability will hurt you more than having the best technical skills, and scientists that you lock in an office to make sure that you have the best technology, if you don't have that ownership and accountability. Seeking out and developing new skills, the skills we'll need, in a new world is very different than what we know them to be today. But, we've seen it sort of circles back to the point about inclusion also of employees. There's a lot of value in transferring the skills that you will need to the people you have already, involving them, training them, preparing them. Many of the skills do not even exist yet. You cannot find them outside. So growing them from within is very valuable. Communication. We have this tendency that when we launch projects, we even have banners, and it's a big launch day, and it's a big deal, and we start off, and then it sort of just dies a quiet death, where sustaining that communication and constantly communicating the state of affairs, good or bad, being transparent about how are we doing and what are we doing and why are we doing it, all the things we sort of hit on earlier. The more you communicate to that, the more it drives that culture and that behavior and that awareness, which then drives buy-in and sort of willingness and excitement to jump on board and drive this forward. And then, it's from a culture point of view, creating that change leadership lifestyle. The quote that you see there on the side says it all. It's not about having all the answers. That's not what good leadership is about, especially as we navigate through technology and digital transformation. But it's about knowing that change is coming and knowing where to react and preparing and being ready to react and change, and being consistent and leading with transparency. The next few tips basically sort of swap from or switch from culture to sort of practice, the habits. Right, creating good habits or some of these habits in your organization also lends itself to having a smooth or at least a big step towards achieving real and sustained transformation. Getting a partner to collaborate. There is a lot of people and companies that's investing a lot of money and a lot of time into things so that you don't have to. You don't have to do this by yourself. There's a booming market really out there that's built around transformation and to bring help to the table. Moving forward with purpose, right? We've mentioned it before, understanding what exactly it is that you need to address and focus on. It means constantly listening and feeling the pulse of your organization and then, adjusting and pivoting as needed to make sure that you really, really stay on top of what those critical drivers are and what is most important for you at that point in time. Involving people, we've seen with overwhelming success that, using platforms and a vehicle such as Change Agent Network to grow and drive that change on your behalf. I mean, as humans and as individual in the technology age we live in now, we are almost programmed to want to be involved and share and be social. That's the whole premise of how social networks operate, right? So taking that concept and building it into your organization with big transformational and change projects, well, it's been proven, worldwide by millions of social media users that that's a very, very effective vehicle to use and a tool to use to help drive change and drive involvement. I don't want to say too much about data information. We've said that there are, billions and billions of gigabytes of data that we are going to generate. And I'm sure everyone is aware that if you do not have structured and disciplined practices to manage, organize, analyze, and use that data or put it to good use to create intelligence for you, you'll probably have more headaches than what you'll have solutions with all that data being generated. And then, tidying up your house, just using the good old-fashioned sort of concept of stop, start, and continue. Digital transformation is guaranteed to bring in a bunch of new things. So, when it comes to practices and processes, for instance, right, the way you do things, your procedures. So doing a business-wide purge of legacy documentation, revisiting practices that are redundant to avoid people having to bypass and doing shortcuts will go a long way as you embark on your transformation journey. So, do it hand in hand. That's the best opportunity and reason for you to remove old things. Stop. When you introduce something, stop doing something else if that does not add value anymore.
Yeah, we had a couple more comments that came through here, Theunis. Kate made another good one regarding, we're known for our social network strategies. The success of an organization can't be born on the backs of a handful of people. Is that not true or what?
Yeah, I agree. Fully.
Yeah, and then Tina says that, transferable skills is something we forget. We forget about that. And communication is key. And she says the peel in the dark will fester. Absolutely.
Well, yeah, people are not mushrooms, right? There was a little comment I had in there. You can't keep them in the dark. But I think that's so true. And that's why I made the comment that, with previous sort of industrial revolution stages and the introduction of new concepts, I think at those stages, often it was easier to find the skills, especially if it was trades driven or mechanically driven. But in a digital and technology age that we are heading into, and I'm not talking about skills like the programming functions to actually develop these technologies. I'm talking about the business skills that you need to make sure that transformation is a success and in fact manage your business. Those skills, we don't even sometimes know what they are yet. So that those transferable. The focus on having it transferable and using the greatest asset that you already have, which is your people, and transferring the skills that you think or see you'll need to them is invaluable. We're at the end of the slides, and I think everyone's had a chance. This is one of my most favorite quotes that's on the screen now. And, I truly look forward to the days that we have many beautiful butterflies and not just a bunch of fast caterpillars that are running around, because we've actually managed to really transform our businesses.
Very cool.
And that's it.
Well, thank you very much for attending our webinar today. We hope you got a lot out of it, and please feel free to reach out to us if you ever want to have further conversations. Again, visit our website at heliosconsulting.ca. And again, these are going to be made available on our YouTube channel. So look us up on YouTube, Helios Consulting, and start to share our webinars.